We will now begin with our rounds of questioning. Mr. Halan, you have 6 minutes for the Conservatives.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, what are your fiscal anchors?
Madam Chair, and I'd like to say thank you to the member of the committee. It's a real pleasure to see you. We have been very clear during the campaign that we will be balancing the operating budget in the next 3 years.
That's your fiscal anchor?
That is a fiscal anchor that we have been talking about and that we put in the platform.
Are there more?
We said that there will be a declining deficit to GDP over the same period.
Okay, so the deficit to GDP ratio that you're claiming is supposed to decline, the PBO says that he doesn't think so. And he doesn't even think that you have fiscal anchors right now. Is he right?
I would say different parliamentary budget officers have had a different view, I would say, than the one you're referring to now. I would say, Madam Chair, Canadians should rejoice because Canada has a very strong fiscal position.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
We have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7.
Minister,
we have the lowest deficit to GDP ratio in the G7.
Sticking on the deficit
we are
to
only
GDP
one
ratio,
of two countries in the G7
your
which has
fiscal to
a
GDP
AAA
ratio
credit rating.
was supposed to be 1%. It's doubled right now. And you're saying that it's supposed to decline. It doesn't look like it's going to decline. You literally, according to the PBO, are going to have 80% higher deficits and the economy is shrinking. So how do you square that? How do you square having higher deficits, a shrinking economy? Your deficit to GDP ratio is already double what you claimed it was supposed to be. How is it supposed to decline?
Well, we're waiting.
Madam Chair, I have more confidence in Canadians and the Canadian economy perhaps than my colleague.
Oh, come on!
Canada has a very enviable fiscal position. When you look at the G7, Madam Chair, and I attend these meetings, I chair them. You would say that our colleagues would say that Canada has a very stable fiscal position. We have the means of our ambition, and we're going to seize that generational opportunity. Having the lowest debt to GDP ratio and the lowest deficit to GDP ratio in the G7, plus a AAA credit rating, I would argue, and I know you're the official critics for finance, so you would know that, that is a pretty enviable position. Only Germany.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Has a AAA credit rating in the G7, and Canada is one of them.
You know,
we have a
Canada
very strong fiscal position.
Fastest shrinking economy in the G7, and saying that we would have the AAA credit rating is almost like a participation ribbon right now for Canadians waiting in food bank lines, because they're the ones who are suffering with your government spending. And again, you didn't answer the question specifically. You're claiming that the deficit to GDP ratio is going to be going down, but there's no specifics. Are you saying that in this fantasy budget that somehow the GDP is going to massively grow at the same time having deficits that are going to be 80% higher than what even Justin Trudeau had, which is surprising?
I think it's pretty offensive for Canadians who are listening this morning.
What would you say you do here?
To your comments, because Canadians will be reminded that your government...
I'll correct you, Minister, that the PBO said that about your ratio. He said that your ratio is very alarming, stupefying, shocking, and unsustainable. That's what the PBO said. We agree. Canadians agree. Do you agree?
I would say there is a... Kevin Page said, and I quote, Madam Chair...
Is the PBO lying?
Madam Chair, do you want me to answer? Otherwise, I'm happy to listen to your question.
It was a yes or no answer, Minister.
But if you want me to answer, if you just want to ask the question and the answer, Canadians will form their judgment.
Yes, Mr. Turnbull.
Sure, I know that it's the informal practice at committee, because I've been on many committees, to give the minister at least as much time as it took the member to ask the question, at least. The minister wasn't even able to get the first word out.
On the point of order.
Mr. Kelly.
The minister ran my colleague's clock earlier in the round. I think it works itself out.
Okay,
Mr. Halan, I'll just ask everyone to maintain a respectful atmosphere. Thank you.
Definitely. Okay, I don't see the minister will answer that, because we all believe the PBO in saying that the finances are unsustainable. Moving on, like you said in your statement, you want to make operational spending whatever that is, and balance it in 3 years. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, tried this failed experiment in the UK last year It failed horribly, and now you guys are trying to try the same accounting trick here in Canada. When at the end of the day, the bottom line is still the bottom line. I'll quote the PBO and what he's saying for your claims about splitting it between operating and capital costs. The PBO said, we haven't seen a clear definition of what would fall into capital and would fall into operating. He further said about your operating budget that we currently don't have a definition of operating budget. He went on to say something very alarming. The bottom line of the government will not change, which means debt is still debt at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how many columns you try to present in front of Canadians and try to trick them. He went on to say the international public sector standards that everyone uses to measure the deficit and levels of debt will not change. The first reason that won't change is those are the accounting standards. The second reason is the ratings agencies won't let you change it. That's the first thing they're going to go to. And if they have a sniff that somehow there's a change in presentation, you bet your boots that we're going to be paying more for debt pretty quickly. So you guys are going to try the same failed experiment that Mark Carney advised the UK government on just last year. So are you guys going to be cooking the books, trying to trick Canadians with these tricky accounting practices, or both?
What?
I think, Madam Chair, it's irresponsible for a member of Parliament to use language like that. I will say that. It's irresponsible. Because the member knows full well that we're not replacing anything, we're adding. This is a new lens for people at home to understand.
Would the minister agree debt is debt?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to listen to his question, but if I'm not allowed to respond to the same time, I've been a minister for quite some time in this House. Normally I have the same time than
That's
the colleague.
why it's not a new government.
Canadians deserve to correct the record because that was an irresponsible statement.
Minister, and thank you.